What's up, midgets? It's been like 5 months, but welcome back to Behind the Gains. Yes, I wanted to do more of these, but as you can tell, I stopped doing them. Why was I why did I decide to stop doing them originally? Well, during the prep and even up until this moment, I've had a hard time re-engaging with social media since the bodybuilding show, since the prep, and since the post show, the post show blues. I think I had the post show blues. But as you can see, I've still tried to post here and there. I recently posted one of my Omega videos, and you guys seem to like that, which is pretty motivating to me because with bodybuilding, I think the title of this video is The Problem with Competitive Bodybuilding, so let's just get into it. Let's not waste your time. To me, the problem with competitive bodybuilding, unlike many sports, there is a genetic, advantage many people have when it comes to certain sports, such as basketball. If you want to be in the NBA, like 99% of the time, you're going to have to be a pretty tall dude, unless you're like Muggsy Bogues, I think that's his name. But, with bodybuilding, that is true as well. It is a very genetic sport. However, unlike basketball, I'm sure some of those guys take PEDs. I'm sure, they they are not 100%, clean off all that. But with bodybuilding, if you want to go far in competitive bodybuilding, you pretty much have to hop on, unless you really want to stick to being natural. But unfortunately, with bodybuilding, it's not so much about aesthetics. At least the sport of bodybuilding is not so much about aesthetics. If that's one nice thing about social media in a way, is it has definitely given bodybuilding a different light. Many people are going back towards the aesthetic appeal of it, and with social media, it's less about competing and more about just doing it as a hobby for many people. But as far as the sport goes, the sport of bodybuilding, doing natural bodybuilding as a sport, you are going to lose money. I lost money. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how much money I lost from natural bodybuilding, because to me, I didn't lose it. It was an investment. I invested it, in my physique and good coaching, because to be quite honest, the question I get asked most often is, when are you going to compete again? When's your next show? When's your next show? I am not doing another show. Honestly, period. Okay, well, that's a little extreme. I don't know if I'm going to do another show. I've thought about it a lot, and it's not because I couldn't do another show. I easily could. But to me, I feel like the reason I did the show, and I've explained this in an old video that I think I unlisted or I made private or something, so I'll just reiterate it here. The problem I had with bodybuilding then is natural bodybuilding is judged under the same criteria as enhanced bodybuilding, meaning it's all about being as shredded as possible and still trying to be as big as possible. But unfortunately, thankfully for me, I'm a little 5'4" man, so it's pretty easy to keep the size on. But for like most people, it's very hard to get stage lean and keep the size. So if you want to compete in natural bodybuilding, one of the highest criterias is how lean you are. However, unfortunately, unlike enhanced people, they end up just looking very small or feeling much more insecure about losing gains. I wouldn't say most people probably aren't actually losing as much muscle as they think they are. They're just not as big as they thought they were. And now that they're all completely depleted from carbs and water, they're realizing, uh-oh, I don't think I'm as big as I thought I was. But for me with bodybuilding, I do want to keep bodybuilding. I kind of was recently kind of in a little rut where the first month post show, we're getting personal and honest now. The first month post show was a big transitional month where I had just graduated college on top of doing the show, and then I started working full time like a couple weeks later. And I've worked full time in the past, but this was the first time I was ever working full time for good. You know what I mean? Like there's no end to it now. It's just life. I'm just living life. It's summertime, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just another season now. But the first month went by really fast because it was like I explained, it's like getting off a treadmill, You ever had that sensation where you're walking on a treadmill for 30 plus minutes and then you get off and you just have this inertia to keep moving forward? That's kind of how it felt. Time was moving by very quickly. But the last month, it slowed down quite a bit and reality kind of sunk in. And I started having to actually think about things that I didn't really worry about after the show because I was riding high off the show. I felt like I'd put so much work in, done so much going into it that I could kind of coast on it for about a month. You know, I had about a month's worth of content to post and I was chilling and I was eating. I was enjoying my food. I've definitely slowed down on the food in the last month. I'm back down to a good maintenance amount, I'd say. But I the last month has been a little bit of a struggle because I kind of became obsessed again because I hadn't lived life without this intense goal. You know, like living with a goal makes life it makes life harder but also more rewarding. And so the first month went by, I was fine, but then the last month I kind of felt purposeless because unfortunately, in natural bodybuilding, a lot of enhanced bodybuilders can do multiple shows a year, probably just be fine, and keep progressing because, PEDs can definitely help. Okay, they don't just help, they are part of the reason why bodybuilders can compete so often. But as a natural bodybuilder, once you're a certain amount of years in, like I'm over 5, 6 years in, I'm not putting on very much muscle in the next year to 2 years relative to someone who's just starting out. But if I want to do another show, I'm a competitive person and, I want to beat everyone around me. And I got second at this show. But more importantly, I want to beat the version of myself I brought to stage last time. And in order to do that, I have to get bigger. And I kind of became obsessed with the idea of, okay, well, everyone expects me to do another show, and I need to do one fairly, within the next year or hopefully not 2 years. So I became obsessed with how do I get as big as possible, as fast as possible. And I've definitely changed up my style of training. I'll do a whole separate video breaking down the last year of finally diving into the science. I'm a science-based lifter now. It's kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, I was treating it like a job. And you don't just do your job because you enjoy your job. I mean, hopefully you enjoy your job, but ideally, you do your job because you want to get better at your job because that will lead to new opportunities. And so with bodybuilding, if I want to get to the next level, I need to get bigger. So I became obsessed with getting bigger again, you know, but the problem with that is you can't force it and you can't speed it up. And I became impatient. I wasn't, you know, I forgot my main rule that I've always held close to my heart. Every time I felt like quitting bodybuilding or giving up or falling into the pressure of, my internal expectations, I've always fallen back on the idea of detachment, detaching from the goal and instead focusing just on the process, taking it day by day. I became obsessed with the goal and I forgot how to detach. So the last month, well, okay, in the last, honestly, week, I've really been forcing myself to learn how to detach again from the physique. I barely check my pumps. I'll check, okay, pumps as in, physique update pumps, pumped up in the gym. I don't know if that was clear or not. I'm just making sure it's clear. But I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't becoming obsessed with the end goal and instead relearning how to love going to the gym, period. Regardless if I'm going to do a competition or not. It's nice to have a goal, and in fact, you should have a goal in life. But if you become obsessed with it, you know, I thought this to myself, and maybe this will hit. Maybe you guys are gonna be like, wow, he's spitting. But it's one thing to build your body, build your body. But if it's at the expense of destroying or tearing down your life, as in your social life, your mental health, in fact, your physical health can get worse as well from it if you're not sleeping properly or eating properly. All these things, is it worth building your body if it means destroying every other aspect of your life? And it was getting to a point where last weekend I skipped out on an opportunity to hang out with my brother, maybe he'll be listening to this, going on a hike, and I honestly purposely skipped it because I needed that moment of awakening where every single second of the last month has been pretty much opportunity cost. I was about to ask you, do you know what opportunity cost is? Sorry, that was backhanded, or I don't know what the word is, but I the opportunity cost of not going to the gym. I became obsessed with, oh, I'm not in the gym today, which means that someone else is in the gym getting better and I'm not. That's opportunity cost. It's thinking about what you could have been gaining because you're not out doing it. But the problem with that is you lose sight of what it is you have in the moment. If you're constantly thinking about what it is you don't have, that's the only energy you'll have in your life, and it doesn't matter if you end up getting all your goals and dreams, but you'll feel empty. And I had that pit of emptiness right after the show. It definitely got better, and man, if I didn't have a platform to post on, it probably would have been really bad. But thankfully all you guys were so supportive, and it was the best feeling ever. I mean, that's another reason why I want to keep bodybuilding. You guys, I mean, it was more so I was doing it for myself, but man, it really helped having you guys there for it too. My phone almost just fell. But, I going back to the hike with my brother, I said no. And I deep down wanted to go, but I also knew if I went, I was not going to be able to enjoy it because I would have been obsessed with the idea that I wasn't putting in the work when I should have been, that I wasn't going to be able to improve, not just for you guys, but for myself. But by skipping it, it had the inverse effect where because I skipped it, it made me start thinking, oh man, maybe I'm taking it a little too far. It's no longer just a hobby. It's no longer a lifestyle even. It's a prison. I'm stuck. I'm stuck doing this, and I don't ever want to be stuck doing anything. In fact, part of the reason I haven't been posting is because, I spent like the first 6 months to however long doing fitness videos, and quite honestly, I did not enjoy doing them, at least by myself. Maybe if I had someone else there with me, it was more enjoyable, but I don't necessarily enjoy talking about fitness because to me it's a job, if that makes sense. You wouldn't want to spend too much time talking with your friends about what it is you do at your job because eventually it doesn't matter if they're enjoying it because you're probably just going to get bored of it because it's what you do on a almost daily basis. And that doesn't sound right because you think I love doing it, so why wouldn't I want to post myself doing it or post myself talking about it? But it's already eats up at my life so much that I don't want to have to make videos about it. I would rather just make videos about the things I want to make videos about. And honestly, you guys may have noticed I haven't been posting my physique as much, especially after the show. And leading up to the show, I was, giving little physique updates. But lately, I don't know if I've posted my physique at all in the last 2 weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. And the reason is because I love challenging myself. And honestly, I would never go back and undo or say I regret posting my physique online. But part of the reason I did the show is because I wanted to show this is like the pinnacle. Like it doesn't get better than this version of myself. I am, by definition, like in my prime by being this low body fat and peaking to my body to the just peak state, literally peak state. So what's the point in showing my physique right now when I know it's not going to be as good as it was, 2 months ago? And that's why I did that one little video where I showed the before and after of bulking, and it was pretty much just me going from tan to pale, but you can definitely tell I put on some fat, and I don't regret doing that, but I kind of want that video to stand as the last video I posted my physique for a long time. And honestly, I want to get to a point where I don't have to post my physique. If people want to see my physique, as in, going to do some kind of guest posing or doing stuff like that to where I don't have to be in my prime to do it, I think that would be really cool. But I'm kind of tired of posting my body online because at the end of the day, yes, I call it my physique and all these things, but at the end of the day, it's my body. And I don't want to have to obsess about my body, especially with a bunch of people watching. You know what I mean? So I'm challenging myself to create videos and create content in general where it doesn't require my body, because honestly, the DMs as well, you know, a lot of you guys are just asking for advice, and I get it, and I respond sometimes to DMs, but I try not to respond too often cuz there's a lot and it's also spam and all that stuff, but a lot of them are just spam about my body or like, and it's weird cuz I'm objectifying myself when I post it. And I've always known it's kind of, how do I put this? Egotistical to post your body online, but it's like a means to an end. Is that the right expression? Means to an end. I I had to do it to get to this point, but thankfully, you guys, if you guys don't want to watch me anymore because I'm not posting my body, then I don't really want you here to begin with. You know what I mean? I'd rather, with all the idea of quality over quantity has been on my mind a lot lately, and that's why I've been posting less often, because I want everything I post to be quality. But I also realize if I'm not posting, then I'm leaving you guys hanging. And at this point, I would rather have 20 people watch this one podcast all the way through than have 100,000 people watch this podcast for 10 seconds and then skip away. Those 20 full length views of this video would mean more to me than the numbers, because at this point I've proven to myself I know how to make a viral video. It sounds kind of narcissistic, but it's because I care so much, not just about bodybuilding, but about making good videos. And I studied everything I've done up until now, and I figured out what works well, what doesn't. And to this day, I'm still throwing stuff at the wall, but I'd rather make videos that I enjoy watching than make videos that I know are going to do well for the audience I've built up until now. I'm not thinking about doing things because I have to. I'm thinking about doing things because I want to. You know what I mean? I want to make videos that I I don't know if I've posted it by now, but I posted another short. I consider them trailers for my long form videos, but I reposted my messy, or no, my sebum. Ooh, maybe I just spoiled something. But my saying sebum 100,000 times video, because I always knew that was like a resume point. Where even though I did it like 8 months ago, I knew once I had a platform built up, I would repost it again, because it doesn't matter when I did it, and it can just exist, and that's cool to me. It's cool to think that a year from now or 6 months from now or whenever, I'll be able to look back and be like, oh wow, that's still pretty cool, or oh wow, look at how much I changed. To me, that's the cool part of making videos. It's not the making them and putting them out, it's the looking back at them. I want to be able to look back and not cringe, or be proud. I want to be able to be proud of what I'm making. And now I know I'm ranting. I'm not going on about bodybuilding anymore, but I'm just trying to tie it back. Now I'm trying to tie it back to bodybuilding. The problem with competitive bodybuilding is it kind of restricts me from being able to make the kind of videos I want to make. At least competitive bodybuilding does, not necessarily bodybuilding. And recently I'm going to start switching up my split to where I can make a lot more room and a lot more time for the style video I want to make, because to make it as a natural bodybuilder, for a living, you can't just be a natural bodybuilder and expect to make a living off that. You have to find creative ways to turn that into, financial, how do I say this? Make it into a job almost. You know what I mean? To where even though you're spending money, you're also getting money back. As of now, I'm not getting any money back. But that's also because I kind of refuse to do what everyone else is doing, because I secretly think I'm above it, even though I'm not. But, I had a clothing deal at one point, but the reason I dropped it is not because they were bad clothes, not because I didn't like anyone in the, community, nothing like that. It was great and it was a great opportunity to figure that kind of thing out. But the reason I stopped is because it didn't feel right. And I'm not going to do anything if it doesn't feel right. I mean, I have my Gila Mix shakers, code CCOM. I should have plugged that earlier, my bad. Code CCOM, 20% off. But the reason I promote that is because I actually use those every single day. 2 a day. 2 shakers a day. But, that's different. I only want to promote things if I'm excited or I think it's valuable. And the same goes with my videos. I don't want to promote a video that I made if I wouldn't watch it myself. You know what I mean? And I'm picky. I'm really picky when it comes to making videos. That's why it's like an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time being so picky, because it's a disadvantage because it means I post a lot less frequently than I should be. If I wanted to actually make it I could have easily probably have made a good amount of money by now, taking on deals, doing all these things. But to me, I'm not money maxing. Do you guys understand? I'm not trying to maximize the amount of money I make from this. I'm trying to build a portfolio of things that I'm proud of, because I mean, money is important, but at the end of the day, it's not the end goal for me. It's just this. I'd rather have this than have to try and force a product on you guys that I don't believe in. And so the reason, you know, where was I going with this? I guess with competitive bodybuilding, since I'm not going to do all the things that most bodybuilders do to make money, I'm going to have to figure something else out and build a platform another way. And honestly, the best way I can think of is by just not being stuck in the bodybuilding niche. It's a very small niche. Unlike basketball or football or all these other sports, bodybuilding as a sport is very niche and generally not super popular among the mass population, I guess I should say. Which is, a lot of bodybuilders will take that and say it confidently, like, yeah, it's cool that we're niche. It's cool that not a lot of people get what we're doing. And yeah, that's great and all. But at the same time, I don't think bodybuilding would be as big as it is today if it wasn't at one point, admirable to the general public. And, Arnold Schwarzenegger often says that it's lost its appeal and all this stuff. And, the politics of bodybuilding have kind of gone too far. I mean, even when I went up on stage, a lot of people told me, "Oh, we think you should have won," and that means more to me than what any judge has to say. So why even compete for a judge when I could just, eventually get it to a point where maybe I just set up my own show, the Chase Classic or something. Maybe I'm manifesting this right now. Now, you know what? I'm gonna manifest this because I've done this in the past where I say I'm gonna do something, and because I said I'm gonna do it, I end up doing it because I don't want to be a liar. So yeah, I'm going to start my own show. I'm going to create the Chase Classic, and it's going to be an invitational thing. It's going to start off as just me, and then eventually maybe I'll bring on some guys who I think could get up there with me, and then maybe I'll make it a voting system, or maybe I'll make it to where the mass public can vote. I don't know. I'm just yapping now. I'm just manifesting this. But the point I'm trying to make is I want to create bodybuilding in my own image. I want to if I'm going to be a bodybuilder, I want to get it to a point where you don't have to be deathly lean. You don't have to sacrifice every aspect of your social life. It's more about the building. I want to put the emphasis back on the building and bodybuilding. Right now it's more like just in order to bodybuild, you have to destroy every other aspect of your life, and not that's not healthy. Even if you don't care about the health aspect, not only is it not healthy, it's just not as enjoyable to watch, to do, to live. Unless you're a freaking robot, it's like, okay, great, enjoy it, but I think it's becoming more and more popular for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people would love to get into competitive bodybuilding, but the barrier for entry is so high. Let me tell you how you have to do it. You have to, oh shoot. Oh well. Drop my phone. You have to get a coach, and if you want to get a good coach, it's going to cost. I won't say how much, but it varies, but it's definitely going to cost. And then you have to stay on a very strict diet, at least if you want to do well. You have to be on a very strict diet for months and months. I mean, thankfully for me, I got by on about a little over 2 months, 2.5 to 3 months. Actually, no, I was dieting for months and months up until that point. So, no, months and months. And then you have to pretty much cut off your social life, at least, doing the things that most people would consider a social life. You can do other things, but you have to make sure that those other things are not impeding on the bodybuilding diet or lifestyle or sleep routine, all these things, cardio. Oh my gosh, you have to do hours and hours and hours of cardio, which obviously if you're going to bodybuild, that's a given, but man, the amount of cardio was insane. Just and then to do, the peak week, there's just so much science that goes into it. Bodybuilding is, to me, the reason I enjoy bodybuilding is because it's art, and it's more of a science experiment than it is an art form at this point. Bodybuilding is somehow a sport, an art form, and a science experiment wrapped into one. And if you want to be good at it, you have to be good at every aspect of those three things. You have to treat it like a sport. You have to also make sure to treat it like an art form if you want to, impress the judges and build a physique that the judges are going to like. And you have to understand the science. And I'm not saying you shouldn't understand the science, but I'm saying the amount of precision that you need to do well is just too much for most people to handle. All three of those things are preventing people from getting into the sport. And I think if I had to choose between the three, like pick two of the three to keep for my new version of bodybuilding, I would keep the sport aspect because people love competition. You can't lie and say, oh, I would rather, at the end of the day, even with music, people still turn that into a little bit of a competition between, diss tracks or freaking racing up the charts and all this stuff. Even though they're not necessarily competing, most people build the narrative that they're competing. So I would keep the competitive aspect of bodybuilding. I would obviously keep the art of bodybuilding because, people want to look at it. It's a visual medium. Therefore, in order for bodybuilding to be liked or well, not obviously respected. Most bodybuilders are respected. Most bodybuilders are respected, but in order for people to actually want to like look at the physiques, it's a visual medium, so you would think it would be about the art and creating something beautiful. I'm talking about bodies right now, but there's something beautiful about it. And then I would remove the science because, science will get you to a point, but I think being too obsessed about it like I have been myself the last however many months and years, it's just going to take you down a point where if you're doing it naturally, you're going to stop making gains as fast as you can, as fast as you were at the beginning, and eventually you're just not going to really be seeing results, and you can obsess about the most niche, minute details when it comes to bodybuilding, but if you're going to stay natural, I don't care how good you get at the science behind it, eventually it's going to taper out and it's going to be really defeating. And that's where I've been, where I've accepted I'm not really making very many gains anymore. And I now understand all the science to it. I understand everything when it comes to doing it the right way as a natural and all these things. And I became so obsessed with that I realized in the last week, like, just to put on a little bit more muscle and no one's even really going to notice or care. Maybe the most niche bodybuilding judge dudes on the internet are going to notice, but the majority of people are just not going to care. So why should I, obviously I'm going to strive to get bigger and better, but at the end of the day, I'm detached because I know most people don't care. And, I do it because I love it. I don't do it because I want people to love me for doing it, if that makes sense. How long have we been yapping for? About 30 minutes. You know, I have had a lot of thoughts on all this, clearly. I've been thinking about all this stuff for a while. I've been living it for a while. And to me, I love bodybuilding. But as the sport stands right now, because I'm choosing to stay natural, I am not going to compete in any more natural shows. Not only that, it's so stupid how you have to get all the price of the tickets. That I mean, I competed in a pretty big natural show, but the price of the tickets, all these people who came to support me had to pay. I'll just say it because it's online. Like $40 for like a general admission thing or whatever, and it's more if you want to get all the VIP stuff and all that stuff. I didn't even want people to show up because on top of them paying all that money to show up, I'm not seeing a dime of it. What? And then they're going to the show for me, but they show up, they see me do my prejudging, but then they have to wait for so long. I have to wait for so long in between the prejudging and the finals. You know how I had to stand around in the back for so long. It was just so exhausting having to stay in that peak human condition. Peak human condition. It's not peak human condition. Maybe it's the peak condition for the judges, but you feel like garbage. You don't even want to really. I mean, once you're up on stage, it feels worth it, but man, it just feels so not worth it. The moment you're off stage, you're like, well, that's it. It's over. And I hate that feeling. I hate that. And I feel bad for people who didn't have the whole social media thing like I did to post about. But, if I were to set up my own show, it's like I would charge like a tenth, like $5 to $10, have as many people as I know show up, come to see me because they're going to see me anyways. And then, if I had to rent out like a freaking stadium, not stadium thing, but just like some kind of community center stage thing and set up the lights and stuff, which would be fairly cheap, probably be $100, not hundred, few $100 to rent it out for however many hours. I could probably at least break even. You see what I'm saying? And not waste people's time as well, because time is money at the end of the day. I'm a business major. Time is money. But maybe now I'm just really just venting and yapping. But I had my one Q&A video, and I wanted to keep that video fairly straightforward, answering questions. But this is how I actually have been feeling, and this is how I feel moving forward. I'm going to, I can just tell you how I'm planning on doing this. I'm going to do this podcast. Do it as frequent as I can. And it's not always going to be about bodybuilding, but obviously I wanted to make this one about bodybuilding. It's going to be about whatever I want to talk about, whatever I want to review, just freaking whatever I want to do. In my main channel, it's going to be a lot less frequent, but those videos, I'm going to make sure that they are bangers, that they're great, that they're good videos that not only people watch, but that people want to talk about. People that get people to feel something. You see what I'm saying? It's easy to get someone on a reel to feel something, either laugh, make them laugh, or make them frustrated, all these things. It's easy to get that quick emotion on that, but creating a long form video that the whole way through people are feeling something and not just getting bored, that to me is that to me is way more impressive and more of a challenge. And I love challenges. That's part of the reason I do bodybuilding. I just love challenging myself. I love making things. And so this podcast is going to be my way of decompressing, and those videos are going to be the stress. Those videos are going to create the stress for me, and these podcasts are going to be my way of letting the stress out. Well, that sounded kind of funny. But yeah, I think I'm running out of not running out of things to say, man. I've been yapping for a minute now, but let's just make sure I didn't forget anything else. No, I think. Oh, also, I was getting into the science community a little bit. I wasn't trying to diss the science-based lifting community or anything, because I myself, at this point, am a science-based lifter. I'm about to start doing full body workouts. I know it's so embarrassing, but that's part of the reason is because I want to maximize gains. A, but also B, I want to save money. So if I spend less money on pre-workout because I'm using it less often, that's saving me money. And then driving back and forth to the gym, which my gym is like 20 minutes if I'm lucky away from me. That's 20 there, 20 back. That's 40 minutes a day I'm spending driving when I could just save that time just by doing a full body workout, saving money on gas and time on driving. And I have a whole extra day to make videos, which I is my real hobby. Bodybuilding, I call it bodybuilding. Lifting is not my hobby. It is my passion, or not my passion. It's the same thing as like a hobby, I guess. Or I guess it is my passion, but I think of it more as a job. It's my job. It's my job to go there and get the most out of it as I can, so that way someday, in an ideal world, I can do it for a living. But this is my hobby. This is what I actually enjoy doing. You know what I mean? I if you knew me, you would know I could yap for hours without stopping. And instead of forcing people to sit there and listen to me in person, this way you guys can tap forward or tap backwards or not listen at all if you don't want to. It's a choice to listen to these, you know what I mean? But you don't have to listen to these, but I think the reason I'm doing it is because I know I'm going to look back and be glad that I did. You have to live your life that way. Do things now that you're going to be glad you did in the future. Anyways, I think that's all I got to say. Also, throwing this out there, if you want to be on the podcast, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to reach out to people to do interview type. If I'm going to do this, I feel like I need to get good at it first before I start bringing other people on. But at the same time, I'm down to bring some people on and get a good yap going, because at the end of the day, this is not C Cum Yaps. I had an old series on my channel called C Cum Yaps. This is not C Cum Yaps. This is behind the gains. And not only are we going behind my gains, I would love to get behind everyone else's gains, whether that be bodybuilding or something completely different from bodybuilding. I just want to find out how people got to where they are. And I just love learning about how people got to where they are in life and how they found success. I spend the majority of my time not looking at bodybuilding videos at this point. I will study bodybuilding, but if it comes down to watching videos, I don't watch bodybuilding videos. I watch educational bodybuilding videos, but I don't watch them for enjoyment. I love learning about other fields of expertise, because even though I'm not going to do those things, I love to take ideas about how they found their success and implement them into what I do in bodybuilding. you know Anyways, thank you guys or thank you midgets for watching. Code CCUM, Helix Shakers 20% off. Link in my Instagram bio, or link in bio down in my YouTube account bio. I don't want to end this. I want to keep going, honestly. Man, I could sit here for hours. No, but maybe I'll just do this more frequent. I need to do this. I think it's good. I think it's good for me. Anyways, thank you guys. Seacom Squad out. Bye, midgets. Let me know if you want to be called Seacom Squad or midgets. I'm still teetering on both of those two things. All right. Bye-bye.